I didn't play much last night. It wasn't a great slate for me. I did feel like I had the right idea a little bit with the Mets, the Mets and Braves. The Braves didn't get there, but the Mets certainly did. Sheets, how did you do? And then we'll jump into today's big slate.
Yeah, I mean, boy, oh boy, it's like Cal Raleigh or bust season. You know what I mean? Like guy's the freaking man. What can I tell you? He's just killing people. Righties, lefties, who cares? So I didn't have as much Seattle as I should have. And I did have some Mets. I cashed in. I did cash in 3 of the 4 entries I had in the FanDuel big one over there. So that was okay.
Oh, nice.
I lost a little bit on DraftKings. So let's just say it could have been worse. But listen, there was a lot of points up on the board. And it was I was about to say, hey, I did well fading that cheapo pitcher, but the cheapo pitcher with -2 was in the winning lineup. So what can I tell you? Yeah, but it's funny, but that's what I said. Like when I was building my FanDuel lineup, I said, listen, I'll play Rom in the FanDuel lineup, take my 8 points, but then I get all the Braves and the Mets and whoever. And that's actually what you needed to do. You needed to just eat just sacrifice the pitching. And it turns out like no pitcher got there. Blackburn was actually the best of them all. And but I'm ready to get back after it today. And that's it.
Yeah, absolutely bizarre slate. But we're ready for a big one tonight.
Yep.
Let's jump into it with I'm trying to bounce between screens, but I'm on the road, so it's a little bit harder. We'll pop yours up there and then we'll go by game here.
Yep. Oh, one announcement. So SaberSim made a big revamp of its site and how things work. I spent a little bit of time this morning familiarizing myself with it, and I'll be able to help people navigate it within the next day or two. We're doing hopefully a video or something with Jordan tomorrow. I responded in there this morning saying I could do it, so hopefully that'll work out, and hopefully God willing, whatever changes they made on their end are actually going to translate to the 2DFS end. We'll see. Crossing fingers as far as that goes.
Right.
But it just makes things a little bit easier with respect to builds, and I'll get to that when I get to it a little later this week, probably.
Yeah. All right.
We're ready to get started here.
Yep. Sounds good. All right. First game. What do you have first? Because they're all the same time.
I have Toronto, Baltimore first.
Okay, that actually is the same one I had first. All right. Why don't you jump off though with it?
We're already killing it. It's already we're already up there. So right off the bat, I have one of the top, if not the top value overall pitching wise on the slate. That being Grayson Rodriguez, 6,100. He's a very solid point per dollar play here, and I see him being owned pretty a pretty healthy clip here, but he certainly rates to be a good play. And again, it's relative to the rest of the slate. So you can make the case that it's not the greatest park and it's not the greatest matchup, but at that price, he looks pretty good. With respect to the Kikuchi side, I really don't have him at kind of in my top group. And as far as the hitting goes, tried to reduce things a little bit, so I really didn't get to much either side of Baltimore or Toronto.
So Toronto has had a very interesting second half of the year. They've scored a double-digit runs a couple times, and basically every other game is 0, 1, 2. Occasionally they'll score a 3 or a 4. They just haven't hit the ball that much, and Grayson Rodriguez is really good. And we saw him dominate San Diego last time out. That was one of those nights where that was one of the right things that I did was having some Grayson Rodriguez. But I definitely am interested at 6,100, and it feels weird, but I just had this rule not to play pitchers against Toronto. It is probably worth noting that Toronto has Vlad questionable today. If he's out, that would just give a much bigger boost even to Rodriguez. So I like Rodriguez, and that's pretty much all I like in this game. I have no issue if people wanted to talk about Kikuchi or consider that. If he was a little cheaper, I think I might consider it. And I also don't think that I would argue against any Orioles individual bats. I just don't have an interest in a stack. So it's Rodriguez or nothing for me pretty much in this game at the moment.
Okay. Next up, we're on the same page there.
Yeah. Next up, exactly. Next up, you have Washington, New York.
Yes. Oh my! Look at us, just killing it.
Unbelievable.
Just killing it. And there's only one of the game at this time slot, so we're already going to be 3 for 3. There's only one game at 7:10. Only one game at 720. So we're all, oh my God, we have 3 at 810 that we're going to have to deal with. But let's see. We're going to be 5 for 5 as being in the right order. I'm feeling it today.
Yeah, that's it. All right, so let's talk about the elephant here. Like this is your team. This is going to be a weird situation because for some reason people want to play Rodon again off the injured list, and
beats me. Why?
and I don't know. Like I understand that we know this guy historically is a good pitcher, that Washington is not good against lefties. I'm just trying to figure it out. But like, I mean, Sheets, like what like early on in the day, if you had to program your lineup and you were your script right now and you were building, I mean, would you really be at 20 near the field at 25% Rodon? Does that seem kind of crazy with how things have been?
I mean, I've been pretty vocal about not playing him like the whole season. And you talk about, listen, I like to whine a lot about the guys that can never get right. Literally the one time he had a decent game, I played him. So I think I'm okay with the Rodon thing. I don't know. I think the Yankees just really picked up a lemon. I don't know what to tell you. Whether it's because he wasn't ever that good, or whether because he's just not that good anymore, or whether because he was injured and it's not good because of the injury. But I mean, you can't play. I don't think you can play guys like this at 20% ownership. You know, you just can't do it, especially in a freaking stingy matchup like this. You know, it's listen. If I get to an MME, I'm not gonna let an MME build. I'm not gonna be Xing him out for spite. But when it comes to programming like big buy-ins or anything like that, I mean, I'm certainly not gonna play him. That's the best I can describe this. And then the other thing that I have in this game is I do have the Yankees as one of the top stacks on the board, both value and for raw points. And you're the not just I Gray Whisperer, but you always seem to kind of want to sprinkle a little bit of him on slates with where the pitching isn't that great. And 6,900. So listen, he's always a pretty reasonable price. And somewhere, like somewhere in there, there's like talent. You know what I mean? You know it's in there somewhere. Mm-hmm. I'll just let you say whether you're going to play in there. But I definitely think the Yankees rate out well. And Rodon is showing up as a good play. I just don't think I can play him.
Yeah, I thought about the Josiah Gray thing. Like it's, they really like he's struggled his last couple times out. But we've seen the Yankees struggle enough that I actually think I'm actually looking at this as almost like a plus matchup for him. But at the same time, I also think the Yankees are kind of interesting. I mean, I just want to read you something though. The Yankees, listen to their game log. I mean, these are runs they've scored and sometimes in very good matchups. 5-1, 3-0, 0-3, 7-1, 9-2, 7-1, 1-3. Like, I mean, they've had plenty of games where they just get completely shut down. And when they get shut down, you get a big score on the other side because they do strike out. So I will sprinkle some Gray in as my current plan, and I also will have some Yankee stacks. That's where I'm at.
Sounds good to me.
All right. And next up, we have the Cardinals and Pittsburgh. And I'll jump this one off real quick. Look, we get Adam Wainwright again. I got away with it as far as I guess you can call it, got away with playing him last time out because there was a 3-game slate and he was 5K. And he actually had a quality start and still only had like 8 fantasy points. He's been the worst pitcher in baseball. I don't think there's a whole lot of question about it. And I think that, Pittsburgh looks good. And I think, St. Louis has let me down so many times, but on paper, they look good today too. So I'm open to both offenses, but definitely leaning more Pittsburgh.
I am open to both offenses as well. And I also lean more towards Pittsburgh. And I also have a little bit of a hankering to play some Oviedo. He doesn't really project all that great, if great at all. But, I mean, the more I look at this slate, the more the pitching is a little bit – I mean, I don't know. I mean, listen, Grayson Rodriguez is obviously a pretty good-looking cheapo here. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know. I'll throw Oviedo in a little bit. It's so funny. You see Wainwright. And, there's going to be a game where he puts up 40. There's just – it's never – It's so funny. They talk about these guys that have tricks or whatever it is. We never really talked about this, but how awesome was it to see Dallas Keuchel just freaking almost basically get a perfect game a couple of starts ago.
I know.
It's kind of amazing when you think about it.
The thing
Anyway.
is, it's so hard for Wainwright to score fantasy
I know.
points.
I'm just spewing, you know what I mean? But yeah, I definitely Pittsburgh is a good stack. They're very, very cheap. They rate as the top overall, point per dollar value on the slate as well. So yeah, I mean, until Wainwright can get a guy out, you'll probably just keep on playing teams against them.
Yeah, and probably worth noting also that Pittsburgh. I don't mind your Oviedo idea. I mean, maybe keep him in mind for me, but like I'm not like heavily interested. But I do think that maybe playing. I just think that just keep an eye on Pittsburgh ownership as the day goes on. I have a feeling they're going to end up being pretty popular.
Yeah, I like what's his name. By the way, the only guy that didn't do anything for Pittsburgh yesterday was freaking Reynolds. Reynolds was the only guy that didn't do anything. He struck out like 3 times, I think. But I like him, and maybe they move Sawinski up in the lineup a little bit against the righty. That would help. I like him, and I like Brian Hayes regardless of righty, lefty, whatever. And then they have a couple of little scrappy guys on the team. That catcher is pretty good. That
they're pretty good offensively.
That Helguero guy, whatever his name, isn't bad. Maybe whatever. So yeah, they're going to be. Oh, they'll probably be somewhat popular. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yep. All right. So moving on, we have the Dodgers are in Cleveland tonight. I'll tell you what, it's pretty decent pitching conditions. It's 72 degrees. There's 11-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from right center, which is a shame because the Dodgers would be clearly my number one stack today against their former pitcher, Syndergaard, who just a few weeks ago was pitching for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
They would easily be my number one stack. The not great hitting weather in a day where a time of year where we usually should have great hitting weather has me a little bit shaky on it. And I also think that I don't think I can do the Bobby Miller thing because it's a little too expensive. I still want to be overweight this guy like every start he has in general, just because I think that he's incredibly talented. The upside, we haven't even seen the full upside yet. And you look, by next year, we'll be talking about him, not like Spencer Strider quite, but he has the path to where he could be like a similar type of electric pitcher. Anyway, so I do actually like him as a play a little bit. Just he's on the list anyway. And I think the Dodgers are like a great stack, but you wonder why the Dodgers have less than a 5 total against Syndergaard. It's because it's not great hitting weather. And if the hitting weather was a little bit better, they would have probably a 6-run total and probably would be owned similarly because people are just going to see the Dodgers against Syndergaard, and they are going to be the team that people pay up for, I think, or one of them. So I am actually, while I like the Dodgers just fine as like I don't know, they're fine to me. I'm probably not going to prioritize them the way other people are going to today, at least not as of right now.
Yeah, I have them as one of the top 2. I mean, aside from Atlanta, obviously, but I mean, depending how ownership kind of comes in. Yeah, I mean, the like you said, weather's not great. And Syndergaard is, listen, he hasn't been in the league as long as he has. I mean, he certainly can control the game a little bit. You know what I mean? And the thing that bothers me also is that one of the things that you like to do is play guys that steal against Syndergaard, but you keep mentioning to me the Dodgers are one of the teams that have embraced the stealing the least.
Well, that was at the beginning of the season.
Oh, it's good.
And they completely corrected it, but
okay.
They just don't have they don't have a ton of guys who run. It's Betts and Freeman who run. That's pretty much it.
Rosario, he probably could.
Yeah, but I don't even know that he'll make the lineup today.
Well, it's going to be tough for him to steal if he's not in the game. So
yeah,
I'll have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, I mean, I have nothing against playing the Dodgers here except for the ownership. So we'll. Yeah. I have a couple of other teams that I kind of hoodoos. We'll talk about a little bit, but it's kind of hard to deny that the Dodgers are one of the top stacks, though.
Yeah.
And I'm not playing either pitcher, by the way.
Yeah. I am going to consider Miller, but it's probably a long shot. All right, why don't you start off with the Mets one, with the Mets in Atlanta?
Yeah, so, I mean, the Braves are playing, so they're probably one of the best stacks. That's about the end of that. I'm not getting to any of the pitchers, and if you can get to the Braves without being too highly owned, then play them. I mean, it seems pretty logical to me.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm never gonna talk myself out of a Braves stack. They had a bad night yesterday, but it's 94 again in Atlanta. This is another spot where I could see like a lot of, a little bit of I could see 3 of the 4 prongs being viable, maybe not all 4. I do think Bryce Elder should be in consideration at least. He's, we saw him have a real downside, and then of course he gets to face the Yankees and he bounces back. But I'm just going to put him on. I'm just keeping him on my list for right now. These are not. I don't feel in love with any of the pitching, so I'm just going to have a lot longer of a list to try and choose from. And I also think that you should be playing. I think both offenses are extremely interesting here, and I think the Braves are the obvious, spend up team. I think the Dodgers are going to be owned a little bit less than the Braves, but it's actually probably going to be closer than you think, and it might even end up being towards the Dodgers. It really is going to be close. So neither probably are enough. It's a big slate. So for a big slate, being 10% owned as a stack is pretty high, but you still overall, I don't think need to worry about ownership the way you might ordinarily need to, unless sort of Atlanta steams later on in the day. And we've seen plenty of that. Sure. But as of right now, Atlanta is, if not number 1, 1A. They're definitely a top 2 stack. And I think the Mets are a really, really good stack on the other side. I know it sucks chasing the 10-run games, but we've seen Elder get hit a little bit. So in 94-degree weather, I'll gamble with some Mets in my lineups for sure. And I like the over again. I would just bet the overs in every game in this series as long as the weather's like this. So let's see. What do we got next? Minnesota. So we got Milwaukee, right?
I have, Minnesota, Milwaukee.
Even though I cheated that time sheets. The actual first one that popped up was Seattle, Chicago. So I had to waver my way around it. All right. So Arizona, Minnesota, Milwaukee, probably nothing for me with the exception of, I think we should consider some Wade Miley. Just again, this is how I feel about pitching on this slate. There's a lot of questionable things. He's 6,300. Don't game log watch. What did they face last time? He had a few tough matchups in a row. Dodgers. Oh, it was not at Colorado. It was just against Colorado. But Wade Miley actually has a ceiling, and I think is a reasonable enough guy to maybe if you wanted to double spend down with Grayson Rodriguez and play the Braves. I think he's a guy who I could consider. And again, I don't feel excited about all these guys. I'll say at the end who are my preferred guys. I have not reached one pitcher that I have as preferred. Closest thing so far is Grayson Rodriguez, and I don't feel like that's safe. Anyway, I do think Wade Miley should at least be in some consideration. And the Bailey Ober thing at 10-2, I just don't know if I can do it. Basically simple as that. I just don't think I can play Bailey Ober at 10-2. I'm not really sure why he's 10-2. And if you're not going to play Wade Miley, you've got guys like Jordan Luplow, who's going to be 2,600 probably leading off. Yeah, I just think mostly it's maybe a little bit of Miley, but pretty much a cross-off game for me.
I'm not quite getting much of anything here. I'm getting kind of maybe a little bit of Miley if I had to, and maybe a little bit of Minnesota if I had to. But again, trying to make a big slate small. This could be a game I just kind of like hold my nose and just don't play.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the next one then.
Now let's move on to like the greatest hitting team in like the United States. I mean,
it's pretty interesting because they were so awful offensively for so long. We're talking about Seattle, right?
Yep.
Seattle.
Oh, that's all they needed. They needed to take Julio out of the lineup last night to make sure I didn't play enough of them, and then they just win.
And right off the bat,
13 runs.
I probably am gonna go the other way here tonight. I think that people are. I think. Look, you want to talk. Why is Bailey Ober 10-2, and Mike Clevenger is 5,700? Mike Clevenger, I think, has more 20 fantasy point games than Bailey Ober does. He's 6,600. I'm sorry, I had him at 5,700. Why did I have the miss thing?
What's the difference?
I'm open to Clevenger. I don't care what other people say. You know me. I have a history with this guy. And the fact that he's put up over 20 points 3 games out of 4, and you have a team that for the season has, they're top, they strike out in the top 10 most. They are one of the top 10 lowest power teams against righties. I know they've been hitting the ball lately. I am going to gamble with a little bit of Clevenger, possibly. I like him a little better than I do the other guys. And it's just a complete, again, probably maybe he doesn't make the big buy-ins, but I'm definitely considering him. And I think I'm going to consider Brian Wu also. I don't think I'm going to be getting to the hitting in this game, even though I think that Seattle is going to be very popular, or sorry, is reasonable. It's 80 degrees. You've got some wind blowing in 6 miles an hour. Maybe I reconsider a Seattle stack by the end of the day, but I guess my initial thought when I first looked was they were going to be really popular. And I don't think that actually turns out like it's going to be the case. So maybe I have to reconsider my Seattle ownership. But I like the idea of some Seattle lineups and some Clevenger lineups.
I like both pitchers in this game as well. I like Clevenger. I don't mind playing righties against Seattle. Last night's results to the contrary, or whatever. I don't mind playing the righties against Seattle in general. I don't mind playing righties against the White Sox in general, unless you get some big Chicago wind or something like that. I was about to say Comiskey. I can't even imagine the last time it was called Comiskey. But yeah, why not? I think both these pitchers are relatively okay cheapos, and I'm not getting into any of the hitting in this game. Seattle, listen, Seattle's been killing it. I mean, you could stack who plays it? Griffey, Edgar Martinez, Tino Martinez, and A-Rod. You know what I mean? What's the difference? I mean, they're all murdered here. And Carl Raleigh fits in there really, really nicely.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm off the hitting there, and I will definitely consider both the pitchers as well.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that we're both on the same page. I thought we were going to talk a lot about Seattle hitting going into that.
I'm stubborn. I don't like playing them against the Rays.
But isn't it kind of weird that they aren't going to be owned? Like, I don't know. Just kind of, I just immediately assumed when I saw this slate last night, I was like, oh, well, they're going to be owned.
Well, what's Raleigh, like 6,500 now? Let's see what he's
43.
I'm kidding. He's 43.
Yeah, no, I know he probably should be like
4,300. And oh my God, look at these guys. These guys have to be popular. There's no way they score 100 runs a game.
I don't know, man. It looks as of right now, and they're playing Clevenger, who everyone loves to pick on. Although
Teoscar's still under 4K. Are you kidding me? That's
weird.
And even the Senzoni, I think he had a home run last night also.
Yeah, he's super cheap. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm definitely reconsidering it because I thought for sure they would be the most popular of like the middling stacks.
There's no way that people don't play them instead of like Pittsburgh, right? I mean,
well, I don't know.
Actually, Pittsburgh's against Wainwright, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's those are the two that I would have thought in the mid range, and then I would have thought that the Dodgers and Braves at the high end, but. Maybe if Seattle gets overlooked, I'm definitely going to revisit some of my thoughts.
Yeah, well, I mean,
there's plenty of upside there, and we already know the White Sox have just given up on the season. The bullpen has just been terrible. So anyway, all right, Red Sox, Astros. I'm going to do the same mistake I sometimes do, and sometimes the thing that gets me there. I will probably play a little bit of Verlander tonight, and I really don't want to do much else in this game. If I had to, it would be a Houston stack, but I think it's just Verlander for me.
Yeah, I will. I'll join you in half of that analysis. I can play the Houston guys. If you don't want to pay for the Atlantas or the Dodgers, I mean, I think Houston and there's another team that I think is kind of like Houston that I'll get to in a little bit, but I think Houston's a decent lower owned opportunity. Than some of these others. I'm not getting to Verlander, but I certainly am not going to criticize you for playing him.
Yeah, I agree with you about the Houston thing. Maybe I should have him just keep him on my list right now. But I just want to narrow my teams down, and I'm having trouble doing it.
Yeah.
Right now, it looks like only Atlanta is good to me. All right, so we have the Angels in Cincinnati here, and if you just wanted to know that the pitching is a little bit funny on this slate. Anytime that Lucas Giolito is chalky, it just should set off a little bit of alarm bells, just because it doesn't happen very often. So with that said, I have Giolito on my list, but I don't really want to play him as chalk. I think I would maybe just go ahead and consider Verlander instead. But look, it's the Reds on the road. It's a huge park downgrade. This Reds lineup still has pop in it, man. It's not this automatic matchup. However, I could see it going the other way, and this being the kind of team that maybe chases a little bit too much, maybe doesn't let Giolito get as deep in counts and walk as many guys, so maybe he gets away with it. So yeah, mild interest in Giolito, although I don't like the ownership, and I don't think Ashcraft is particularly bad, so I'm not really that interested in the Angels.
This is what we're going to do. I pulled up the sports book here. And I've been like red hot with this.
You're red hot. You nailed it yesterday with the Mets right off the bat.
Red hot. Right.
Before anybody could write anything at 4 a.m, she just wrote the Mets.
Red hot. So I second your listen. Giolito rates to be the best play. That's just. I mean, he's got probably the best strikeout prop. Well, we'll talk about it. I mean, it's bigger than Snell. We'll talk about that. But I've been around the block a little bit too much here. So what we are going to do is we will be betting. Where is he? We will be betting Joey Votto to hit a home run plus 390. That's what we're going to be doing.
Plus 390?
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Wow. Okay, that's not like that great of odds.
No, but we're not stupid. I have to make sure he's starting first.
Why Joey Votto though?
I don't know. He's a lefty. I don't know. He's gonna kill it, isn't he? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I just don't really think of him as much of like a like. I mean, he's a power guy, but like he's like probably like the 7th best hitter on their team. So
I'm just
throwing it out there. Okay. Well, watch here.
I'm gonna play him, presuming he starts. That's it's stupid for you to bet it now. You know, it's like
Although if he doesn't start, you do get refunded, I believe.
Yeah, but then what if he pinch hits his home run? You know,
I know that's what I don't understand because they do refund him.
So I'll play. Or is it better to play De La Cruz at plus 475?
Yeah, I don't even know why is Joey Votto more likely to hit a home run here than De La Cruz? I really don't understand that.
Probably no reason. Yeah, so I'll be betting one of these. Probably one of those two. Unless what's Friedel? Let's see, what's his thing? He's plus 700. No, I'd rather just play one of those.
Reasonable too.
Yeah. Right. So I'll play. I'm going to play one of these guys that hit a home run. Now, with that said, he does rate to be the best play, but again, Giolito is chalk it's kind of like Heaney is chalk, and I just see it, man. I just see me playing Giolito, putting him in 70% of lineups, and it's 4-0 after the top first. It's like
right.
I've seen it too many times. But the other thing I would mention is that from a value perspective, I do have the Angels as a good value in this game. So I figured I would bring that up. So for me, it's Giolito. I'm not getting to Ashcraft, and I would definitely consider the Angels as kind of a value stock.
Okay. All right. Moving on next. Let's see. Okay, so we're gonna try again. What? San Diego, Miami?
Nope. See, the first time we have a little variance, we can't handle it, right?
Yeah, no, and it could be 3 different games. So you got to tell me which one I'm.
So we have KC Oakland.
Okay.
So this is what we got. We got Greinke as the projected long reliever coming in this one.
Yuck.
That's sort of interesting. I think all of this is enough to kind of keep me off of Oakland. I think. I do have Harris as a reasonable value pitcher in this game against Kansas City. So I will mention that. And Kansas City, as much as there usually are like really good value, I don't see it today. So for me, weirdly, the only thing I like here is Harris for Oakland.
Yeah, so the Royals are expensive now, huh? That's what we're dealing with.
I guess.
I mean, look at the lineup. I mean, the only ones who are cheaper, you've got Witt. They've made Michael Garcia more expensive. They're not like expensive. They're just more expensive than they were. You know what I mean? We were playing these guys like everybody was 2,400 except for Perez and Witt. Now they're all like 4,000 except for Perez and Witt. Not really, but close.
You had Witt over 6K the other day, and he still had a home run.
Yeah, exactly. Was it inside the park again?
No. It was a regular one.
Just a regular home run. It feels like this is a spot where I could end up using some pieces from things, but nothing. It's like not the 2 teams I want to stack on a giant slate. Really, no other excuse than that. There's you could definitely make a case, and I'm not going to argue against it for any of the 3 prongs, Hogan, Harris, or either offense here. But I just don't like any of it enough to where I probably end up with it. But I wouldn't fault anybody if they did. Just not my favorite. Simple as that. I do think that you could make. I think if I had to pick between them, I would probably pick Kansas City. But you have some value with the A's with Jordan Diaz and Noda should be back at 2,800. So if you want to do some value plays, I certainly don't mind it from this game. Just not for me. All right. Next up, do you have San Diego?
Yes.
Okay. Ooh, okay. I could have easily been the other one. All right. Snell will be the most popular pitcher on the slate tonight. It is against Miami. He's definitely the one I feel the most which I'm going to regret this already just for almost even getting those words out. I mean, he's definitely the guy I feel the safest to get 20 plus fantasy points tonight, which feels really wrong to say out loud. But yeah, he's expensive, and it's a Miami team that doesn't like terrify you or anything. It's a good pitcher's park. You've got 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from left field, which means for the righties harder to get one out. So more likely those you get ball the 400-footer or the 380 that would be out of this park. You get the extra 9 feet. It just makes it on the warning track. I don't know. All the things line up for Snell to be the most obvious and probably the best pitching option on the slate. We do know that there's high variance with him and at high ownership. It's always fine to do anything else. So I'm okay if you want to do that. But as of right now on a slate where I'm struggling with tons of pitching options and no one that I feel good about, sadly, Snell is the guy I feel the safest with tonight. And I also don't really have any other interest in anything in this game.
Ooh, all right. So you got Luzardo coming up with 2 straight negatives, facing all these San Diego righties.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm kind of interested in that. They're tough to get to. You could use it with, throw in another one of these. I don't know who else plays for San Diego nowadays, like Cronenworth or Kim. He's not too cheap. But that was kind of like my Houston. My play kind of like Houston, like expensive guys that are not Dodgers in Atlanta, So it seems pretty recency bias. You know what I mean? Like, oh, Luzardo had 2 bad games. Let's just play. Let's just keep pounding away at him. But I don't know. I mean, these guys can all get hot. They can all put up a lot of points. So I do like San Diego a little bit. And yeah, Snell, Giolito, Grayson Rodriguez. Those are the 3 main pitchers as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, yeah, Snell for sure.
Yeah, so here's my argument for Luzardo. I'm actually not going to play him, but I just want to throw out why I don't want to stack against him. Because so you have a guy whose big problem is the home run ball. If he can stay clean with that, he ends up just being completely dominant. And for a while we would have been playing him like he was just so really, really, really good the first part of the season. Or, after the first few starts, he was just killing people and having huge games. He's had a couple tough matchups in a row, and also he just didn't pitch well. But again, you eliminate a little bit of the home run risk with a little bit of that wind blowing in and not a great hitter's park. Maybe he can get there and actually hold them. So I guess that's the only reason I'm not more on San Diego. I actually considered Luzardo, to be honest with you, when I was going through the slate, but I just didn't end up there. All right, now we are closing it out with Texas, Arizona.
I guess I'll start. So yeah. Zach Gallen is pretty expensive in a tough matchup. I don't think I'm going to get up to him. John Gray is pretty cheap. Depends what part of the season you're talking about,
right?
Whether it's a good matchup or not,
right?
I guess you have to include him in your cheapo list. And then for whatever reason, just because I want to identify like some teams to stack out of nowhere, I had Arizona as kind of like some random low-owned team to kind of put in there. So Arizona, Gray, I guess. But I do think this game's going to be ignored to some degree. Yeah, I'll do that. I will say Arizona as a low-owned stack. And then I will get your opinion on John Gray.
So the thing about John Gray is that like he's frustrating to play for DFS because the strikeouts have been so bad this year, but then he'll have the weird like outlandish like huge game. If you look at his overall numbers for the season, it really doesn't make any sense that he's 6,700. Arizona has not been the same team offensively since the break, but they've sort of found themselves a little bit lately, and they do tend to hit the ball well at home. Gray is a guy on the list for me. Gallen is a guy on the list for me, but neither of them are priorities. And I think I probably just end up fading this game. I agree that it's going to be overlooked, but I can't find something I like enough. If I did, it would probably be like an Arizona stack, but I don't think I'm going to end up there. This is a very weird slate for me at first look because, and Sheets, you're going to love a question in chat that we're going to read in a minute. But I like Atlanta, obviously, as my top stack. And then I think that my next ones would probably be Pittsburgh, I actually think I talked myself a little bit into Seattle on this one, and I like the Mets again. Then if you're going to get a little funky with it, I think getting Houston and New York would be the next two teams. The Yankees would be the two next teams I looked at. Pitching wise, the only pitchers that I really circled today that I really sort of went after were Snell and Grayson Rodriguez. Now, if you wanted to play either of the Grays, John Gray or Josiah Gray, or a double Gray lineup, Wade Miley, Mike Clevenger is on my list, Brandon Wu, just a lot of guys who are just meh. And then I do like Verlander a little bit. So if I was going to spend up, if I was going to double spend up, I might play Snell and Verlander. If I was going to double spend down, I might play Clevenger, Rodriguez. But it's a tough slate. There's a lot of options, and I think it's going to be pretty spread out ownership today. What are you getting with your Saber builds?
Yeah. So in my Saber builds, which I just kind of ran with whatever, let's take a look. I have, as far as team stacks go, believe it or not, Kansas City looks to be the top overall, followed by the Dodgers. So they really do like the Kansas City value for some reason. So KC, and then followed by the Dodgers. And then as far as players go, where was pitchers? Snell. Let's just get hold on. Here's the lineups again. I got to get used to how to read this again. You know what I mean?
Just so everybody knows, we're going to be doing a video on
this.
Yeah.
Okay. So Snell, 50% Snell, 50%. They love the Rodon. I just don't think I can do it. So Snell, Rodon, Rodriguez, Giolito, like I mentioned. You know what I mean? Those are the four top projected guys. So the idea is that they're going to try to get off of the chalky hitting and go to something like Kansas City. I don't know. I guess if you want to spend on both those pitchers like Giolito and Snell, I guess you got to try to save money somewhere. But like you said, I don't even think Kansas City is that particularly cheap. So that's what I'm getting right now. But anything, a lot can change.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. And I do want to real quick before we get out of here read Jason Hubble's question because it relates to something we've talked about quite a bit. Do you all keep track of how often chalk pitchers and stacks hit versus the projection
options?
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is we don't, and I do think that is an opening for content or self-research that has been just not taken advantage of in all sports. The idea that how do teams, players, whatever, in all sports perform relative to their ownership, like relative to their expectations. Like are there guys, like we say don't play Haney as chalk, right? We say don't play Giolito as chalk. We say, don't do this, don't do that. But maybe we're just spewing. Maybe you should play this chalk. Maybe they don't do that well when they're low owned. It seems as though they would do better when they're low owned because they have high variance. That's what you're supposed to do. But there's got to be data, right, to say exactly what those answers are. And I think that is definitely an opening for people that have, quite honestly, capabilities greater than I do to do that type of research. In all sports, like how does Devin Booker do at 30% ownership? As opposed to how does Al Horford do when he's low owned? Or more to the point, how does when Jokic is on the same? He always seems to be on the same slate with Embiid. Like how does Embiid do relative to the field when he's not the highest projected player on the slate or something like that? Yeah. I think all of those things are very legitimate research projects that can be done, which to your question, no, I've not done. So that's the answer.
No, and I'll just weigh in real quick my thoughts on that. I actually think it's much less relevant than you guys do, because I don't think in baseball a stack projection and a pitcher projection, how they do it versus chalk matters. I think it just matters how they do in certain situations, and that's really what I would look at instead. But again, a lot of stuff you'd have to go through to pile through a lot of data even to figure that out. So we are a little bit using memory and going about things not the right way. You know what I mean? But still, doesn't mean.
But what is interesting to that point is not even so much the projection how they do, but what we have started to track, but I don't do it like I don't have a database if I do it like day by day.
Right.
Is just where we're most off as far as ownership projections. Like like how much higher owned are guys typically than we think they would be, you know, and to keep track of that, you know, and what types of guys, you know, like the cheap running back in football, you know, like if we project him at 32, is that more likely to be 50 or 30? You know what I mean?
Right.
Versus the high owned quarterback, you know, or there's certain guys that just always seem to just out own their projections. Like we used to think, and maybe it's still true. Maybe we used to observe that guys like Xander Schauffele in golf would always just get more ownership, you know, than they used to.
Right.
I did that one study like a year ago, and we saw that 5 weeks in a row, the most over-owned golfer relative to his expectations was Zalatoris. You know, and was that just an outlier? I don't know. So the what's cool about that question, the fact that there's no answer yet, means that this game is not solved. You know, that there's stuff to be worked on and stuff to be looked at. And maybe Bobby's right. Maybe there's also stuff that you think needs to be worked on that might be just a waste of time. You know, so and that's, you know, it's honestly why I do this and why it remains kind of cool.
No, absolutely. I like that answer, and apparently so did Jason. So anyway, guys, good luck tonight. We'll be with you live at 6. Wish me a safe. It's not even a long journey, but I just wish me that no roads are closed or anything.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah. And good luck, everybody, and let's crush it tonight.